Greetings, people of the internet. This is Scott with Circworks Art Labs. Welcome back to my subterranean sanctum where I create all manner of robots, aliens, zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. But today we're going to do something a little different. We are going to be designing a Miscrit, a different kind of creature. And if you're not familiar with what a Miscrit is, I suggest you go back to the previous video in this series and you will learn all about that. But I have a feeling maybe you've already seen that, so you probably know what I'm going to do. So we're going to sit down at the art desk. We're going to start concepting this Miscrit design. And again, we're working with Miscrimania, the Miscrits fan site, on sort of something that can kind of work jointly, hopefully, as a mascot for them. And also, we want to try to get this creature into the game, and we're going to see if we can do that. Now, there's a few rules we have to follow, and we'll go over some of those rules in order to get that into the game. But anyway, we're gonna try to be inspired by what Miscrimania is doing and try to introduce some of those elements. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get to the art desk, as we sit down, we start designing. But we've got a lot to think about. We've got to think of what element we want it to be, you know, what kind of creature it's going to be based on, because most creatures in Miscrimania are based on something, or either one creature or a couple creatures combined, or, you know, or maybe it's something totally, you know, out of the ordinary, not based on anything in reality. That's a possibility too. So we've got to think about these things as we sit down, as we start designing. But that's what we're going to do today, and hopefully by the end of this episode, we will have a sketch ready to go for the next video, and then we'll start actually fleshing that out even more. And we're going to concentrate on just the first evolution today of this Miscrit, and we're going to take that from step 1 all the way to completion, and then hopefully, if people are interested enough, we want to continue doing that, and we're gonna create the other 3 evolutions, because there's 4 evolutions in a Miscrit. I've explained all this stuff before. Again, check out that other video. But for now, let's get to the art desk. Let's sit down. Let's start designing. Okay, so now that we're nice and comfortable in our chair and sitting at the art desk, time to break out the pencils and start doing some sketching. Now, before you put pen to paper, or if you're working digital, your stylus to tablet, I guess, you want to think, what are we trying to do here? What's our goal? Whether that's, you know, what kind of character are we creating, or you know, along those lines. But one of the things we're doing right now, because this is sort of a special project, is our goal is to create, to do 2 things. Create a Miscrit, a creature who can represent Miscrimania, which is the Miscrit fan site, and also hopefully go in the game. Now, I kind of want to make this clear, because there's some promotions and things out there that might be to the contrary. This isn't a slam dunk. I mean, we're not. There's not like 100%. We're not 100% guaranteed that this creature is going to go in the game. All right. I think Steph, the one who runs Miscrimania, might have been a little overzealous when he put that. But no, I mean, there is a very good chance that we will be able to get this in the game. But there's certain rules and things we need to follow, and we'll get into those, and, you know, certain parameters. When you're working with any, you know, any property that belongs to somebody else, in this case Broken Bulb Studios, we have to kind of adhere to their guidelines and make sure that we're doing everything on the up and up, and make sure it's all legit and everything. So I am confident that I'm pretty sure we can get this creature in the game. Now, you know, but nothing's etched in stone. I've designed many Miscrits that got rejected for one reason or another. So just want to make that kind of clear. So but again, I am optimistic. So anyway, but we'll see what happens. This is like an experiment. We're going to, you know, go through this, and I mean, you're on the ground floor as we create a Miscrit and how that happens, and everything from the sketching to the hopefully approval and getting it in the game. The other thing I want to mention is that this is not an official collaboration between Broken Bulb Game Studios and Miscrimania or myself. So I just want to make that clear and everything. This is something that I'm hoping, like I said, will be a good representation that Miscrimania can use in their sites, kind of as their mascot, and also get it in the game. But one of the things that was made clear, because I did some groundwork in the beginning, I talked to talked to the higher ups over at Broken Bulb Studios, and they wanted to make sure that there's nothing specifically that brands this character for like Miscrimania, because they're concerned that, well, if somebody's not familiar with that, if it's confusing or whatever, and that's not something they've ever done. They've never done anything like the Nike Miscrit or the the Apple Miscrit or any kind of promotion like that. So there's no branding or any other things worked into that. So that's one thing, because originally Steph, again, who runs Miscrimania, who's the moderator and the creator and everything, he was thinking he wanted to like brand the logo, the Miscrimania logo. And if you've seen the Elementums, and I'll throw one of those up there right now, one of the Elementums that I created. Okay, so now that I mention this and I look back at the actual creature, this probably isn't the best example. Because this is the only one that I actually have, because basically what this is. The Elementums are the big bosses that you fight, and there's one for every element. Each one of them have the element. There's an icon for each element. Each one of them has it worked in. This one is very hidden and obscure. But if you look if you follow kind of where the head is, where it's kind of got that blue flame, and you follow that blue spine, if you look right underneath, and I'll kind of pop this up and indicate, you can see that little lightning bolt right there where that is. So this one's a little more hidden. The other ones were created by another artist. So but they're a little more evident. So this one's a little more hidden, just because the way it was designed. We're kind of trying to figure out where to put it. But anyway, so my whole reason for bringing this up was we were thinking originally of like somehow branding the Miscrimania logo on the character, but that I was informed that wasn't going to fly, because we don't want any official crossover between Miscrimania and Miscrits. So anyway, but let me show you the Miscrimania logo. So here you can see. All right. Now the one thing I do think we can do, and the one thing I like, is that to me it reminds me of sort of like a marquee, like you would see for a theater or for like a play or whatever. These big bright marquees with all the bulbs and stuff like that. So I think what I want to do is try to take some of that, not the actual M, but incorporate some of that. So it's still, there's something there, but it's still very obscure, and it's not blatant, it's not in your face or anything. So it represents both Miscrimania, but it's not going to confuse players of Miscrits or anything like that. So that's one thing I'm thinking. Okay, so because the M in the Miscrimania logo has sort of this marquee feel to it, I thought we could kind of use that as a jumping point to kind of help us inform the character. So because it's very theatrical looking, why not work that into the personality of this particular Miscrit? So maybe this Miscrit, now all Miscrits, they're basically what they do is they battle other Miscrits, and so when in battle, what if this character kind of views the way it battles as sort of performance, rather than just pounding the other Miscrit or launching effects at the other Miscrit, but while it's doing so, it does so with like finesse, and it's almost like a performance for this Miscrit. So I thought that would be kind of a cool angle. So this Miscrit can kind of be like a showman, So there are also some things that Steph wanted to incorporate in this Miscrit, and I think we can work those into the same theme of this kind of performance, ready Miscrit, for lack of a better term. So one of the things Steph wanted was he'd like the character to be kind of based on a bear. Now, a lot of Miscrits are based on animals that we see in the real world. Now, of course, this takes place in a fantasy world, so some Miscrits are just out of the ordinary. That they're not really based on anything. A lot of them are based on something. Sometimes we combine different kinds of animals or whatever. But anyway, there are a lot of Miscrits that are sort of based on animals that we know here on Earth. So Steph wanted us to base it on a bear. So, and there's a few bears in Miscrits, Miscrits that are based on bears, but I don't think it's oversaturated or anything. So I think we could probably fit another sort of bear-inspired Miscrit in there. So as you can see, I mean, I'm kind of working on a look of like a bear cub. And later, I did some preliminary sketches, and one of the ones was, I think, what Steph had posted, just a little preview. But I wasn't really happy with that. I mean, it wasn't that I wasn't happy with it, but I thought for this first evolution, we could try to go a little bit shorter and cuter, and then maybe use that other design, incorporate that more to the second evolution, because that's one thing we want to think about when we're designing Miscrits, is how it's going to evolve, what it's going to become, because there's 4 different evolutions. Now normally when I design a Miscrit, sometimes I'll start with one, and kind of like in this case, I'll do one and I maybe work backwards. Like I'll start with one and it's kind of somewhere in the middle, like the second. I'll say, well, that makes a good second evolution. Now I'll work backwards and come up with the first evolution, and then do the other 2 or whatever. But a lot of times when we're doing these sketching, we'll sketch out all the Miscrits, all the different evolutions, so all 4 of them together, and then we'll move on to the digital line work stage, which will be the next stage for the next video. We'll do that for all the Miscrits, all 4 of the Miscrits, or evolutions, I should say, and then we'll color all 4 of them together. So it helps us create them a little faster when you're coloring all 4 kind of at once, back and forth, because you can get, like, say, the solid color for all of them, and just build on a little bit, kind of work on them all at the same time rather than one at a time. So it'll take a little longer. But since we're doing this a little different and we're doing these as videos, I want to just take one evolution at a time. So we're going to start with this one, which is the first evolution. Now, there's some other things Steph wanted to include. He wanted the Miscrit to have a scarf, and I thought that's kind of cool, because I picture like actors with scarves and things like that. But also, again, thinking into some of these later evolutions, and a lot of what happens with these Miscrits is they parts of them will evolve and turn into other things along with, as they evolve, parts of their bodies or whatever kind of involved or whatever. And like I said, so we've got this scarf, and I was thinking maybe in the later evolutions it kind of becomes almost more like drapery, like the big curtains you see when you go into a theater that kind of pull back and everything, these kind of pleated like curtains and everything. So I thought that would be kind of cool to do. So that's one thing that I'm thinking about. So we could have typically those curtains, iconically, they're red, so we'll probably do like a red scarf. And the other thing Steph likes he likes the Miscrits that have sort of like a mask to them. So I was thinking like the drama mask. There's the sad mask and the happy mask, the kind of those dual personalities. You've probably seen those if you've ever, anything associated with drama has those masks. So at first I was thinking, well, maybe we can try to incorporate that into like the mask that he's wearing. But I'm still not sure. Maybe in the later evolutions we'll be able to do something like that. But it's just difficult because there's 2 masks, unless we made him like a double-headed Miscrit, which could work, but I think that might take away from the cuteness of it. And also because there's those kind of, or if he had 2 masks on one face, there's like the 4 different eyes for, because each mask has 2 eye holes, and I don't know, trying to make a cute Miscrit with 4 eyes would be a little difficult. I guess they kind of pulled that off with like Monsters Inc. They had some cute monsters that had multiple eyes, but in general, thinking any more than 2 eyes, it starts losing its cuteness factor. You think of spiders and things like that. So, but anyway, so So the other thing I was thinking, well, a very popular play, Phantom of the Opera. The Phantom has this mask, so maybe we can go kind of with both. We'll have him sort of have this kind of a white mask like Phantom, and then I was thinking I can use those drama masks as maybe even like a lapel or like a pin that's pinned to the Miscrit scarf, and then later on, it'll move and take shape, and maybe one of the other things that Steph mentioned was armor, having some armor and things. So maybe those in a later evolutions, those drama masks can become like part of the armor, like maybe shoulder pads or something that kind of represent those dual emotions and everything. So just some things to think about as we start sketching now. I guess we'll turn our attention back to the drawing at hand. You can see right now I am kind of penciling in those drama masks around kind of where the scarf is. The earlier evolution, or the earlier sketch that I did, and I'll show it to you coming up. I actually had the mask and the Miscrit was kind of holding his hand out, and the mask were kind of emanating from his hand, and there's kind of like lightning. That's the other very important thing that I forgot to mention. So this is one of the first things we want to do when we're deciding on how to do a Miscrit is what element it is, because that's going to inform a lot. So I was thinking, because we're going with the theatrical angle, and we want to incorporate the kind of those lights that are on the Miscrimania logo, those electric lights, that a lightning element would, something that would power those. Lightning would be good for this particular Miscrit. So, but I do want to incorporate the lights. So I'm thinking maybe like cuffs or bracelets, or maybe even like around the feet we'll have some of these lights. So and they'll be kind of be a power source. They'll kind of match that Miscrimania logo a little bit, but they'll also be, he's got these, this power emanating from his gauntlets or whatever. So we'll start filling those in a minute. And actually, let's see where we're at. Yeah, so we're gonna get to that in a minute. I'm gonna show you some. I'm gonna show you some of the other sketches that I did previous, and we'll be able to look at these, and we'll say, well, I like part of this and I like part of the other thing. And that's the thing when you're concepting, try to do a few different sketches, and then sometimes you might like part of one but not part of the other, or you maybe want to combine some or whatever. But the other thing that I decided to do on the original sketch coming up, I'll throw that in for you. It just had kind of a regular scarf, but here you can kind of see that it's kind of a lightning bolt scarf. So here I'm gonna show you some of it. So here's the original sketch. Now this is the one I originally showed Steph, and he seemed to like it. So hopefully he'll like this new one. And we are going to incorporate some of this stuff in some of the later evolutions. But you can kind of see he's holding up that hand there. Now here's another one. This one I thought was really cute. He was kind of tiny and everything. So I thought it would be cool to kind of combine both of those. Take sort of this cuteness thing and then the other one that I did afterwards, and kind of mix those together. You can see the gauntlets on the bottom one here are kind of big. They're kind of big light bulbs, but I like the mini smaller light bulbs. So back to the drawing we're working on. It's a little hard to see here, but I did go ahead and put those lights in the gauntlets, on his gauntlets, both on his hands, and I'm also sort of by his feet too. So now it's just a matter, I am trying to fill in some of this, darken up some of these blue lines. And the reason why I'm using blue line pencils, there's a lot of different reasons for doing it. Part of it is because it doesn't photograph, or when you scan it into Photoshop, if you're inking, you can just subtract, or you can just delete all the blue, and so you don't have to erase or anything like that. But the one good thing about working in blue pencils like this, even though it's a little light and probably not the best for drawing these videos, when I scan it in and then I start doing the line work, which is the next stage, it doesn't conflict with the darker lines, because usually I'm using the Miscrits have the outlines of their bodies are like darker versions of whatever the interior color is, if that makes sense. If not, you'll see it in the next thing. But it doesn't tend to conflict with this light blue. So otherwise, if I drew it in like black or dark gray pencil, it would just be a mess, and it would be hard to determine what was what when I'm actually doing that stage. So I think I've tightened this one up just about as much as I need to, so I am going to call this one done, and then we're just going to scan it into the computer, and then the next stage that we'll see next week is we're going to start adding the line work. All right, so that's going to about wrap it up for another episode of Miscrits Creature Design 101. We'll be back next week, and we're going to take this sketch, we're going to scan it into the computer, and we're going to start working digitally, so that should be a lot of fun. If you want to see more of these videos, let me know. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment, give me the thumbs up, and definitely hit subscribe, because we're going to be doing more of these videos, and the amount of subscriptions we get, that's going to kind of determine how far we go with this whole experiment. So please do subscribe. Please let me know what you think. And I'll be back next week. And that is all.